Republicans are really stepping up their attacks on Abdul El-Sayed, and in this CNN NewsNight segment, we get to watch one of the MAGA voices, Jesse Arm, completely unravel. He starts making some pretty outrageous accusations about El-Sayed, and honestly, the whole thing gets wild pretty quickly. As always, we're going to watch the full exchange first, and then I'll come back at the end with my thoughts on everything that happened. So, let's get into it. And please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.
Democrats, to paraphrase, they're not like us. That blueprint is most evident in Michigan, where progressive candidate Abdul El-Sayed won the Democratic Senate primary. Republicans have attacked his religion, directly or indirectly, deployed ads using his full name, and some have suggested he is un-American and even a terrorist. President Trump joined the attacks today in the Oval Office. Despite not referencing El-Sayed by name, he did add a new label.
Well, the one thing is we have jihadists being elected all over the place. We have this, whether it's communism, jihadism. It's a friend of mine called up. He said, you know, really, you should use the word jihadist because that's what's happening. When you look at the radicalism and the craziness of the candidates and the stupidity of what they're suggesting, people don't want to have radical lunatics involved in running our country, and that's what we have.
This weekend, President Trump posted an image online describing two very different Americas, one of Trump and his wife Melania, the other of El-Sayed and his wife. El-Sayed responded to this on Sunday.
What was your response when you saw that?
Yeah, he's right. One in which your overlords are two people who don't like each other but joint in the interest of making billions of dollars off of you, or two people who genuinely love each other, enjoyed some pancakes together, want to come together to build the kind of America where they can raise a family and know that that family is going to have the good things. So yes, you got two different visions of America. Donald Trump's vision is the one you're living in right now. Can you afford your gas? Can you afford your groceries? Do you believe when you look your kids in the eye that they're going to have a better future than you did?
All right, so that was El-Sayed's response. Now, if what the president was saying was too subtle for you, Nancy Mace, Republican member of Congress from South Carolina, tweeted over the weekend, quote, "Every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. We refuse to be silent." You're shaking your head back and forth.
That's ridiculous. Nancy Mace is irrelevant. She's on her way out of Congress while the Republican Party is purging its people who make anti-Muslim comments.
Jihadist,
whether it's
the president?
Oh, well, he's 100% right about the fact that Abdul El-Sayed is a jihadist sympathizer, but I'll get to that. Give me 1 second. Okay, Nancy Mace is making gross comments about Muslims. It's terrible. It has no place in the Republican Party. Andy Ogles was just primaried and defeated, who made similar gross comments about Muslims over the years. Thomas Massie, who made gross comments about Jews in Israel, was just excised from the GOP. Meanwhile, what do you have in the Democratic Party? You do have people like Abdul El-Sayed, who, when he was asked about Islamist terror massacre that nearly unfolded in my hometown at a synagogue just down the street from where I grew up, his response was to tell his campaign that it was a risk for him to offer any condemnation whatsoever, and that it was really just the result of hurt people who hurt people, because Israel had done something in the Middle East, thousands of miles away, to this guy's family or something. That is absurd. That is offensive. And I can tell you personally that I know hundreds of Democrats in the Metro Detroit area who have never voted for a Republican in their life who will this November, because Abdul El-Sayed is an Islamist sympathetic, communist adjacent, hardline extremist radical. And there's no place for him in American public life. And a lot of Democrats believe so as well. A lot of Haley Stevens voters believe so as well.
Words like adjacent and sympathizer are doing a lot of work there to try to smear a candidate with beliefs that he does not actually hold.
I am smearing a candidate 100%.
The point here is that, for example, President Trump describing him as a jihadist. There is nothing in his record that suggests he is a jihadist.
Excuse me, when the Iranian Supreme Leader was killed by the American military in a successful operation, Abdul El-Sayed...
An obvious dog whistle to religious prejudice.
No, it's a prejudice toward Islamism.
To bigots who don't want to elect a Muslim or an Arab.
Excuse me, you're not contending with the reality that he is out there defending the actions of religious extremists who carry out terrorism in his name. I just got done condemning stupid Republicans who are making stupid comments about Muslims. My boss is Muslim. I work at a leading public policy think tank in the American right. I am doing Donald Trump now. Donald Trump gets it right when he calls Abdul El-Sayed someone who is sympathetic to jihadists.
That was unconstitutional.
We are not talking about the Muslim ban. That was in 2017.
You got very animated. You're very upset about these things that were, these comments that were made. But you are not that upset when Donald Trump does it. I'm not understanding.
Well, you'll have to forgive me because Donald Trump didn't try to ram an explosive-laden truck into a synagogue with 140 preschoolers in it in my hometown. That was the guy who Abdul El-Sayed was accusing.
One at a time.
But where is that smoke for Donald Trump?
I have it. I'll provide it. I'll give it to you.
You just did not. When he instituted a Muslim ban unconstitutionally.
That was in 2017. It's not the topic we're talking about.
It was one of the first things he did, but he still did it. Okay.
It wasn't a religious ban.
Yes,
it was. No, it wasn't.
Guys, we're gonna do one at a time. Else, we're gonna go to break here. So, Tara, you first.
Thank you. The Muslim ban, the shithole countries, the attacks on Somalis and their religion, and all the Ilhan Omar. You can
when did Trump attack Somali's religion?
Go ahead, Tara, finish.
I mean, my God.
You're getting
you guys don't want to listen because you're hypocrites.
No, you're just getting the facts wrong.
You try to overtalk me because you don't want to hear the truth about the fact that you are not willing to call
Donald Trump say about Somali's religion? What did Donald Trump say about Somali's religion?
10 seconds, and we'll go around the table. Jesse, go ahead.
About him going after Somalis and Muslims, and
I yield my time back to Tara to ask what Donald Trump said about Somali's religion.
Shutting up so I can actually get a sentence out. Like, I'm not going to give you credit for being quiet so I can finish. Go ahead. We'll go on.
All right.
Okay.
Since you can't seem to answer.
I want to look at it politically, that Abdul does have to do some work with the Jewish voters that are in Michigan. We know that he has to do work with rural working class voters. We know that he has to do work with black voters. I think he's going to do that work. I hope Mallory McMurrow, who has talked about the anti-Semitism that her husband faced, who has talked about how the Temple Israel attack had such an impact on her, is going to be able to help facilitate those conversations. I hope he's able to come to some middle about this. But I also want to point out his opponent, Mike Rogers, is running a lot of ads on fear, the idea that people will be scared of Abdul. And I think people are more tired than they are scared right now. I mean, this really is the environment for a Democrat, even a Democrat that I didn't support in the primary, that I think might not be as competitive as a Haley Stevens, I think could really ride a wave that is a lot of the economic angst that people are feeling.
But the fear is coming from the Jewish community in that state, who understand what it is he stands for and understand and have seen over and over and over again him defending, using as a surrogate, Hassan Piker. Like, they're aware of that. And even after all the conversations came forward, even after they aired all these clips about the awful things that Hassan Piker has said, not even years ago, but recently, and he will not condemn any of that.
I will say, I do think he needs to break his relationship with Hassan, because every day that he spends having to talk about Hassan's comments is another day he's not spending actually running his
country. He should also have to be held to account for choosing to associate with him.
I want to say just one thing, because you brought up the Jewish community in Michigan, as did you. Tim Scott is not a member of the Jewish community in Michigan, who is repeatedly, in Democrat Republican Senate ads, repeatedly using Abdul El-Sayed's full name, Abdul Rahman, et cetera, et cetera. And listen to how Tim Scott defended using the full name there.
Abdul Rahman Mohammed El-Sayed, the most radical Senate candidate in America.
Pretty dangerous. You're using his full name in these attack ads, which has gotten some attention. Abdul Rahman Mohammed El-Sayed. He goes by Abdul El-Sayed. Are you trying to say, hint, hint to voters, he's Muslim?
Not at all. What we're saying what we're only saying to voters is a simple thing. He says he's the most dangerous candidate you can find. He's right. We should trust his words, not ours.
But why not just use his name, Abdul El-Sayed, which he goes by?
Well, listen, I go by Timothy Eugene, and so I get called that all the time. Here's what I know without question. It's about what he stands for.
I have never heard of Tim Scott referred to as Timothy Eugene in a campaign ad.
I mean, look, I don't know how he says that with a straight face, honestly. The idea that using Tim Scott's full name unabbreviated is equivalent to using Abdul El-Sayed's full name is just ludicrous. It is obviously, in El-Sayed's case, an appeal to anti-Muslim, anti-Arab sentiment. And I just wanted to pick up on something. I just want to pick up on something Yemisi said there, because she rightly talked about the fact that El-Sayed has some work to do. Yeah. Had Haley Stevens won that primary, she would also have had work to do, particularly with Arab Americans in a state that has the highest per capita population of Arab Americans in the country, who believe that the Biden administration disgraced itself on Gaza.
She would have way less work to do because she'd have all the moderates voting for her.
Purported concerns for human rights, all the while shoveling weapons to Mr. Netanyahu with which to kill 70,000
You guys are like very concerned
It always goes back to the Jews, like every single time, which is a perfect example of like some of what you're talking about, like the coded language and whatnot. El-Sayed has brought up AIPAC and brings it up absolutely every single time he can because he wants to talk about the Jews and the people that you're talking about that Haley Stevens
because they support the most right-wing government in Israel's history.
Oh my God,
They're Jews who support Israel's right to exist.
We understand that Ireland cares a lot about Palestine, but
because we don't like
here, all right?
people
In Michigan, most people don't actually give a shit about Palestine.
We're going to do this. 10 seconds around the table.
People in Michigan are actually scared of Abdul El-Sayed, not because of Israel or whatever. No one cares about Israel. He's going to rip away Obamacare. He's going to rip away private health insurance from the 66% of Americans who have it. They ran a campaign. Rashida Tlaib was attacking Haley Stevens for collecting support from General Mills and General Motors. Michiganders don't like the sound of that. Anti-business politics.
To the contrary, a lot of these claims are made to distract from what Al-Sayed is standing for on an economic basis. Can I finish, please? He stands for Medicare for All, which has polled well for years.
Which would eliminate private health insurance.
Just let him talk, and then we're going over here. So.
He stands for the reduction of money in politics, which people of all kinds of ideology agree with. And those kinds of appeals to improve people's economic lives is why he won the primary.
Last word on that?
Yeah, he won the primary by the skin of his teeth, despite the fact that he was supposed to lead by about 10 to 13 points, depending on the poll, because people realized what he stood for, and they rejected it, which is precisely why Democrats are saying privately, they are not going to do this on TV, that he's going to lose, which makes it even more difficult for the Democrats to take back the Senate. In fact, now Republicans might even pick up a seat.
All right. We have much more to discuss. Alexandria Ocasio.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. As always, I'll put a link in the description for anyone who wants to watch the full exchange for themselves. But I actually need some help from you guys on this one. Obviously, I live in the UK, so I'm not in America, and I'm certainly not on the ground in Michigan. So, my American viewers, I want you to help me understand this. Let me know down in the comments what I'm missing here. Because whenever I hear Abdul El-Sayed talk about what he wants to do, the policies I keep hearing about are Medicare for all, making sure everyone has access to healthcare, reducing medical bankruptcies, and making sure people aren't terrified of getting sick simply because they can't afford their deductibles or medical bills. And honestly, that sounds pretty familiar to me. Here in the UK, we have the NHS. I'm not going to pretend that the NHS is perfect because obviously it has its problems, but at least people have universal healthcare coverage. And if someone wants additional private healthcare or private medical insurance, they can still choose to pay for that themselves. So when Jesse Arm claims that Medicare for all would somehow completely destroy or eliminate private healthcare, I genuinely don't understand that argument. El-Sayed is also talking about eliminating medical debt, ending corporate tax breaks, creating tuition-free and debt-free higher education, protecting civil rights, and making healthcare more accessible. So somebody please explain this to me. What exactly about those policies makes people look at this man and immediately think, this guy is an extremist? Because I'm genuinely trying to understand it. From where I'm sitting, it looks much more like people such as Jesse Arm and Jason Rounce are pushing a particular narrative because the policies El-Sayed is talking about could actually appeal to ordinary Americans. And that's what makes this whole situation so interesting to me. If Republicans believe these policies are bad, then debate the policies. Explain why Medicare for all wouldn't work. Explain why eliminating medical debt is a bad idea. Explain why tuition-free education would hurt Americans. But instead, we're seeing all these labels being thrown around. Extremist, radical, jihadist, sympathizer, communist adjacent, and everything else. It seems like fear is being used because it's much easier to scare people about a candidate than to actually debate what that candidate wants to do. And I think that's the bigger issue here. When politicians don't have a strong record to campaign on, they have to find something else to make voters afraid of. Instead of talking about what they've accomplished or how they've improved people's lives, the campaign becomes about attacking the other person's identity, religion, background, or supposed beliefs. And then there's another part of this that I find particularly revealing. Imagine taking the exact same energy we're seeing directed at Muslims and Arab Americans and applying it to another religious or ethnic group. Imagine if politicians started openly making sweeping statements about Jewish Americans and suggesting that simply being Jewish made someone a threat to national security. The reaction would obviously be enormous, and rightly so. So why should the standard be different when the target is Muslim or Arab? If we're going to condemn religious prejudice, then it has to be condemned consistently. You can't claim to oppose bigotry while using language that encourages people to fear an entire community because of the religion of one candidate. At the end of the day, people should be able to judge Abdul El-Sayed based on his policies, his record, and what he actually believes, not on inflammatory labels being thrown around by political commentators. So I really want to hear from my American viewers on this one. What am I missing?